The Hard Talk with Jakim Show.
The Hard Talk with Jakim Show.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of DIN Media Studios. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host or producers. Thank you and enjoy.
Peace and blessings. This is Jakim from the Hard Talk with Jakim Show. Can't get enough of the Hard Talk with Jakim Show? You can email us at btom6164@gmail.com. That's BTHOMP6164@gmail.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
The views expressed at or through this broadcast is those of the individual host and guests in their individual capacities only. The information provided on this broadcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information, content, and material available on this broadcast are for general informational purposes only. All viewers should contact their attorney to obtain advice with respect to any and all legal matters.
Peace and blessings, fam. This is Jakim from the Hard Talk with Jakim Show. Listen, man, I told you that I was going to stay on local politics for the last 4 weeks in a row. And yes, today we are pleased to have Wilmington Council member, Mr. Vincent White, on the show with us. Give it up for my man, Vincent White. Listen, we're going to be talking about his race and other races in the local area for Wilmington, Delaware. We're also going to be talking about how people can get involved in civic and community building, because that's very important. But before we do that, let me just verify, let me just make sure you know that you can reach us at btom6164@gmail.com. That's BTHOMP6164@gmail.com. And like always, you can watch this show. If you don't watch it live on Facebook Live, you can watch it 24 hours from now on YouTube channel, Delaware Info Now, or the new Hard Talk with Jakim channel on YouTube. Okay, without any further ado, we're going to bring in Mr. Councilman, Mr. Vincent M. White. Peace and blessings to you, fella. How are you doing, sir? How are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for the opportunity to come in and talk to you. You know, we go a long ways back, and we understand, you know, the need to get out accurate information, and to get out information that is not flowered in any way, but with the truth. So thanks for this opportunity to come on the show and reaching out to me.
Well, thank you. Last week we had Karen Hartley-Nagel on, and she came in as a in-person, because we haven't had the in-person in the studio in a while. And one of the questions that I asked her about being Newcastle County president is about zoning. And I know that in your district, District 1, rezoning and zoning is such an important thing. Is there anything that you wanted to tell the public about the zoning, and especially about the development in Wilmington, that they don't already know?
Well, you know, the county and the city are two different entities. So we can't confuse what's going on out in the county with the city. That's a whole different land use process. And that's not a process that the city conforms to. So there are challenges in the county regarding zoning, land use, set aside, accessory dwellings, all of those things that don't pertain to the city. But to back up to your point is that there are what we would say by right agreements that allow for developers and individuals to build what is already there. And sometimes that by right agreement may be in conflict aesthetically with the rest of the community. So I'm going to urge everybody, there's a process, there's a planning process. The planning board meets on a monthly basis, and to increase their education of those zoning issues, land use issues, but they should surely visit or attend planning board meetings.
Now, the planning board in Wilmington, is it mostly council members, or is it other people?
No, it's not. It's individuals appointed by the mayor. I think there's 3 individuals, plus the person who is the director or personnel of the land use and planning license and inspection. So it's not any council members. It's not any elected officials. It's all public involvement.
Right, and that's almost the same way as they do in the county as well. Appointed people by the county council or by county executive, and this one by the mayor. But I get that question a lot because a lot of people see a lot of development inside of Wilmington, and they want to know about set-asides or anything for affordable housing. So what do you say about that?
Well, first of all, we are the hub of affordable housing in Newcastle County. So, and then that term affordable housing means different things to different people. But let's say there's sufficient growth. I'm a part of an organization called Delaware Affordable Housing Group. We're bringing over 60 homes on the market using African American, minority, women-owned developers. So we believe there's always been a model to reduce housing in the city, and that housing tends to be affordable or surely meets the need of a first-time home buyer or the such. Again, in my area, first district, we are building 17 new construction homes with a medium price value of about $300,000. That's the first new housing construction in the city in that area in over 25 years. So I'm proud to be a part of that. And yes, and even at that number, we believe that's an affordable number for a family of 4. And it's just a marvelous development. It's at the corner of Market and Market Street in East Lawn. And it extends into an area that's not seen this kind of development in over 25 years.
Okay. All right. Well, that's important because we have to get that out there that when we talk about affordable housing, especially when we talk about it in the county, and I just want to reiterate what you're saying. Wilmington has always been the hub for affordable housing in Newcastle County. I don't know. This has always been the place where you can get it. Again, I had a question that was sent to me on my YouTube channel, and a question that was sent to me on email about housing. And it was really talking about developers in Wilmington. And that question answers that. Now, I do know that the other question that was sent to me was, what happened to the land bank? They wanted to know what happened to that. And I said, maybe that's a question for the mayor, but I'm going to ask you. Do you know anything that's what's happening with the land bank in Wilmington?
The land bank is operating very well. The land bank has been a strong instrument in getting properties into the hands of persons who want to rehab them and make them available for sale. And so they operate throughout the city, but they've been operating a large amount in the Hilltop area, bounded by 3rd Street up to Lancaster, up to Harrison, and back down to 4th. So the land bank's been, in my opinion, has been a good partner in developing housing for a population and in an area that's surely needed.
Right. I will tell you, we had Dave Ross about 4 months ago, and I think he's part of the land bank, and he was saying some things about how the land bank was working, and I thought it was it's a lot better than what it used to be. Can we agree on that one?
I think it's different. You know, it's different, and I think the land bank is on the right path. It's been on the right path, and I think it's a strong instrumentality for the city to move beyond vacant and neglected housing. So I support the efforts of the land bank.
Yeah, I got you on that one. And yes, not in the same vein, but I'm just going to pivot just a little bit. As being a civic leader, as you once was, and still is, I guess, and we all understand the importance to have developers sign something or commit to something when it comes to developing in the neighborhood that the community may want to have. One of the things that I've gotten was how ineffective a lot of the MOUs are, the memorandums of understanding. In fact, whether you use it for developers or use it for the port, how ineffective the MOUs are. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, our MOU compared to what the conversation may be moving into, there's something called community benefits agreement. And
right.
Community benefits agreements have been the standard in a lot of communities, not necessarily in Delaware, but there is an association of communities, i.e. community benefit agreements. And I would urge anyone to take a look at their model. It's a national model. The issues with community benefits agreements, if they don't have a tie-in on a legal way, they may not be able to be enforced. So what you want at all times is you want to be able to communicate with that entity who's doing the development way before this starts. And that's contacting your elected official and making certain that he or she understands there are certain needs that this community has, and they would like them incorporated into this new development process. I think most developers and I think most elected officials would welcome that input from the community. Hopefully, you get past the conversation and you enter into a CBA, community benefits agreement, but you want to make certain it's enforceable. And 9 times out of 10, that's done through a legislative manner. That has to be done either through council, the city council. It's got to be in a way that it's to be ratified to be enforceable.
Yeah, I agree with you. And just like anybody who's done any civic work out there, you can't even think about having CBAs until you have a decent civic association. And I know that so many of our civic associations have now, because, Delaware is so cliquish, they have gone into this thing where it's only really 2 or 3 people, like most things, 2 or 3 people is really running it. And I'm going to say this before I get your answer on this, Vincent. To all of viewers out there, don't even think about a CBA until you get a civic association that's going to be unified. Remember, unity is the only way you're going to win against people with extreme wealth. What do you say about that, brother?
Well, I was going to paraphrase and say unity. It's got to be unity in the community.
That's
and,
right.
People,
that's right.
It's not a slogan. As you mentioned, I've been doing this kind of work long before I was a council person. Unanimously selected to be a council person by every member on council, for the reason that I did not have a learning curve, did not need a learning curve. I know how to represent the people in the first district because I've been that person as part of the 19-year. I've been a civic president for 19 years. We did not miss a meeting during the COVID period. Did not miss a meeting. So having your ear to the civics concern helps create 2 things. It helps create some progressive needs, and it helps, as you had said earlier, create unity. People talk about representation, people talk about running for office, and God bless them, this is America, and you should. But at the same time, your value should be more than yourself. It's got to be about the community. And the only way you can know that is by being in the trenches and say what you want. People like you and me who've been in the trenches, gone to meetings where others weren't, communicated with those who people haven't, and listen in a way that brings their needs to the table. Because not everyone's a Jakim, not everyone's a Vincent, like they don't want their voice to know. But that's a part of the learning process in order to go out and serve. And I say my job as a council person is very easy. I listen to my community. What they want, I do. It's that simple. It's not Vincent's agenda. It's if the community wants X, It's legal. Let's go get X.
That's right. I will agree with that, man. And let me just piggyback here. You don't have to respond, but let me just make an observation, an astute observation. Too many people claim to be civic advocates and civic people, and all they are is a puppet or strings for organizations that want to get control of policy. They're not civic people. They're just a figurehead for another organization. But that's for my commentary, and I'm going to hit it to you. But let me just go and one more step further on what you just said. The piece of crap known as Ronald Reagan had in the back of his office had a slogan that was 100% right, and that slogan was, "A man can go far in this world if he does not worry about who gets the credit." And I believe that 100%. What do you say, sir?
Well, it's no doubt that's one of the few things that we can agree on with Ronald Reagan.
That's right.
But philosophically, I can't worry about where you're coming from, because 9 times out of 10, it's from a place that's not centered on community. And we know this because I haven't seen you in the struggle. I haven't seen you in the room. And that's the only way I know it. And I don't think that election time, you become anointed other than out of ego and desire. And so again, those things are people's qualities. But when you only have so many hours in the day to get things done, you want to make certain you surround yourself with people who are on the same plane, as close to the same plane. You want to avoid the toxicity of these kind of comments and things that don't lend themselves to the overall community good. So back to your point, if you want credit, then sometimes you're willing to do get the credit by doing things that are not representative of the community.
That's right. Well, listen, I've always been, and you know it, I've always about straight talking and no nonsense, because, it saves people time, it saves you energy when you can go straight to the problem and address the problem when it needs and give out real solutions. So, we say this many times on the Hard Talk. We work in the field where the work is real. So if there's no other way that we can do any of that. Now we get ready to go on to our first break. And before I go on to our first break, I want to be able to give our viewers a chance to be a part of your campaign, or the chance to volunteer, or some cash or dough. So how can they do that, Vincent?
Well, first of all, then go to my website, www.reelectvincentwhite.com. But the easiest way to do it is to pick up the phone and give me a call, 302-668-3545, and let's have a conversation about it. I'm all for involvement and help, and I'm all for helping people learn how to get involved, so they may one day want to do it on their own. So that's what I would say, and I'm a vessel that has a lot of knowledge and willing to share. So I welcome the opportunity for people who want to get involved with the campaign.
All right. Well, we are definitely going to repeat it again in our broadcast. But right now, we're going to take a break so you can go get some water, because I'm going to get some water. I'm kind of parched. It's a hot day today here in Delaware. So I'm going to take some water, and we'll be right back with the Hard Talk with Jakim show. I want y'all to, for all the viewers, I want you to listen again to what KRS-One says about old people and about young people and why that's important. Be right back with the Hard Talk with.
Remember this. If older people don't listen to younger people, they become slow amongst older people. When younger people don't listen to older people, they become slower amongst younger people. If young people would listen to older people, they move faster amongst younger people because you got advanced knowledge.
Right.
And when older people listen to younger people, we move faster in the older world because you got new knowledge.
Yeah.
Ancestor Toni Morrison told us in 1975 that racism is not just a fraud, but a masterful distraction. They say that Black people have no culture, are not civilized. We spend all this time trying to prove that we are civilized, prove that we have an ancient culture that dealt in science and mathematics. They treat us with complete disregard for our health and our safety, and we scream to the top of our lungs. Black lives matter. We matter, we matter, we do, we do. It's a masterful distraction that keeps us from doing the real work. She talked about the fact that we have to stop fighting the fever and fight the disease. The disease is power. The point has always been power. And we will continue to lose our power, or really maintain none, so long as we are distracted and stuck in this cycle of trying to prove our worth. The only people we need to be worthy to are us.
All right, y'all. Peace and blessings, y'all. We're back again. This is Jakim from the Hard Talk with Jakim show, and I'm here with Mr. Councilman, Mr. Vincent M. White, and we're talking about the local elections of Wilmington. Remember, the primary is September 10th. We're almost a little bit more than a month away from the primaries. Make sure you pay attention to these races. Now, I know last week, if you follow me on the Hard Talk with Jakim show, you saw that I actually circled this race. The three people that's running in this race, I circled. Pay attention to this race, y'all. Again, we have Mr. Vincent M. White here on the line, in the virtual. I did get a text here. Somebody wanted to ask that question. I'm not going to ask that question right now. I'll see you on the other side when whoever texted that to me. I know who it was. But I will say this. Vincent, I got another question for you that's, again, Wilmington. Now, Wilmington, for the last 8 years of Obama's presidency, and of course, the last 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency, we've been like the hub of a lot of things. We're like a little Washington, D.C. mini, because we've had these national people here. And of course, Hunter Biden's trial. We've had Elon Musk trial here in Wilmington. Wilmington has had a lot of stuff going on. What most people in the Black community have been telling me, and when I walk down Pine Street or 4th or 2nd or whatever, is that they haven't seen enough development in their area. And I would like for you to address that issue about more development on maybe the west side, east side, or north side. What do you say about that?
Well, trying to be a little modest. I don't think anybody knows more about housing development in the state than I do. And I've advocated for it. And I think it's important to remember, I walked 50 miles from Wilmington to Dover, Delaware, 2 days, one night and 2 days, to bring about the need that we need more affordable housing, decent, safe, and affordable housing in the city. So I take this role of being a housing advocate very seriously.
Right.
To your question, this administration at the state level, at the administrative level, has invested well over $30, $40 million in housing dollars to the city. Now, some of that's been in the form of what we call SRAP, senior assistance. It's been in matters of reducing your rent during the COVID period. Some of it's been in the matter of ARPA funds that can be used to develop housing. So the dollars have been there. Now, the question is, people say, well, not in my community. I don't know what community has not been positively affected by the use of these dollars. Could it be more? Sure. It could be also, it could be more. But the question is, one of the things that I do as the VP of the Delaware Affordable Housing Group is I stress investment without someone moving. We want to invest in the community without replacement.
No
displacement. Investment without displacement. Thank you. I should have been asked you what I meant. But so that's really key. I was a child of the 60s and 70s, where urban renewal caused my parents to relocate their properties from 5th Street to somewhere else. We had to move. We had to move twice. That's not the kind of development that I ever want to see come again. But this investment, we're not displacing people. Now, if you look on the east side, from Bennett Street, from 11th all the way up to 7th is new construction. And that new construction will come from Church to Lombard. So there's an area there. Now there's Pine Street, which is owned by a lot of people who may not, one, look like us or may not live in the city. That's an issue. That's a policy side issue. And I think that's going to be addressed during my during my term, once I'm elected. So there's policy and then there's practical. When people say, this is where you come to, you want to see more in your community, let's define the community and let's go about coming up with the policy. It should be noted that the downtown development district got expanded all the way up to 30th Street, North Wilmington. It stopped at 12, and I advocated for the expansion along with others. So now you have the downtown development district expanding into community-based housing and retail. That's going to pay a lot of dividends just by having that designation. So again, I would always say, what kind of development do you want in your community? Because it's not going to come there without your involvement and without your ask, your ASK. And what do you want that to look like? I don't know. That's the question. We're going to, that's a question I'm always going to have, whether it's the first district or any district.
Well, let me, and you thank you for bringing me into that segue, because I was going to get to it. I had another candidate on, James Dalkey, and we were also talking about involvement of our communities, and I'm always talking about that. Be involved. I live in the planet called Dunleavy, and we are Wilmington address, but we have no Wilmington power. We get taxed by Wilmington for our water and yada yada. Like many communities around the greater Wilmington area. But one of the things I will say about involvement is that that's the community's thing. When I saw Kingswood, and big shout out to all the people that's doing good work in Kingswood Community Center. There's some good work, but our last school election that we had in May, 3 people voted from Kingswood. 3 voted in the school district. You can't tell me you want something great for your community when only 3 people voted from there. What do you say about our involvement in voting?
Well, you say something that does not make you or me popular. And that's the fact that accountability runs both ways.
That is correct. We
have to hold everybody accountable, including ourselves. When I'm walking my district and I see litter, that litter came from us. And the fact that it's on the ground means that me or someone that hasn't been down to pick it up. We have to be accountable to ourselves first, and then we can bring accountability easier on others. But at the end of you're right. At the end of the day, I'm working with a group of residents right now about some living conditions in the high rise, and they're rightfully so. They're complaining about certain things. And I said, okay, we can get one question answered, but when we answer that one question, it's going to bring about some accountability on your part. In other words, some people are coming into the building behind somebody without a permit or a swipe card. When I say, well, what do you do to that person who illegally enters your building? Well, I don't say anything. I just go up to my room. Well, nothing's going to change unless we're willing to hold everybody accountable for that.
I agree.
So I can appreciate the comment. I mean, at this time of age, when we're talking about the lack of education for our children, the low standards in Delaware for educating our babies, and we're spending all this money, and we don't get an opportunity, we don't choose to participate in an opportunity on a school board election, that says volume. That basically says to those people who are watching that we can do what we want because they're not going to come out and vote.
You're absolutely
They're not
right.
going to get involved.
You're
And
absolutely right, Vincent.
And that's not the message that you know, we want to continue to convey, and that's not everybody. So let's get that right.
It's not everybody.
Not everybody.
But
And it's
I
not
will
every
say
community.
this. I will say this. When it happened, and I put that out, and I put make sure that I put all of Newcastle County's voting record on that last May school board election. And when I circled that Kingswood, the first thing some people want to do is making excuses for, oh, they didn't announce it more, they didn't do that. Well, I know that there's more than 3 people in that neighborhood that got kids in schools. I know that. You don't have to make a personal announcement. You know that. If 3 people only voted in one particular place, there's something wrong with the disconnect about how you view your own community. And that's all I'm going to say about that. There's something wrong with that. Now I'm going to get on. I go move out of education. And hold on, before I move out of education, I don't know how you feel about that. There is no school in the city of Wilmington. I don't know how you feel. I would like to get your voice on that.
Well, they're building a new school in place of Bancroft. I believe it's like $140 million school, and it's going to serve a lot of babies. I'd like to see more schools being built in the city. I think the best way to increase the achievement in the classroom is to reduce the size of the number of children in that classroom. Smaller class sizes work. That's been proven. And so, yes, I think we should be building more schools, despite what the demographics say, despite what the birth count says. We should figure out a way not only to build schools, but also build buildings that can have multiple uses while protecting the safety of our babies. We should be able to put in health facilities in the same building, putting police and fire in the same building, community in the same building. The school can be more than just a school, and the people it serves can be more than just students.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, next week, actually the end of this week, I've got a show on Saturday about sports gambling and about how sports gambling is crazy. So y'all may want to stay tuned to that, because the sports gambling thing is going outrageous. 30 states in the union now allow sports gambling, and gambling is going to be the big economic driver for the new 21st century in the United States, and that is a problem. Now, I did ask one of a candidate that's running for state representative how they felt about a casino in Wilmington. And his answer was unique, and I liked it. It was unique. It was something I didn't think about. But how do you feel about a casino in Wilmington as an economic driver, if you believe that?
Well, there's what I would say good and bad sides of casino gambling. Obviously, it could create more jobs. Obviously, it'd be a larger tax base. But for those people who are prone to addiction, gambling addiction, I think you cannot sell your soul or the soul of the community just on the basis of an economic gain. It has to be, in my own opinion, it has to be stratosphere in terms of the benefits way outweighing the disadvantage. So I'm not a gambling expert, but I would say that it would be something that the community should be involved with.
Well, I know you may not be a gambler, but I play a lot of poker. I'm a poker man, and I play a lot of poker. And one of the things I have found in casinos, let's just take Chester, Pennsylvania, for example. Chester, Pennsylvania has had Harris, Philadelphia for a number of years, and yet it has not changed Chester. They have the soccer thing. The Union has been there it hasn't changed Chester. We've had Kimberly Clark. So what happens is Chester has 4 major joints, and I know my people, big shout out to all my people in Chester, all my people on 3rd Street. I know I'm going to hear a lot of flack from it, especially from the mayor's office, but think about this. You got Chester, Pennsylvania has 4 economic drivers in it, and yet it's still #1 in crime, yet it's still got problems with the school systems, the upland school system. So just having things, what you just said, just because it may bring a couple of jobs here, doesn't mean that it's going to be an economic driver. And since I've said that, how do you feel about all these tax abatements for 5 years, that these companies stay in Wilmington for 5 years while a tax abatement, as soon as they get a tax abatement, they out, i.e. like Capital One and others?
Well, I don't know fully that whole contextual thing. I believe abatements work. I think, again, they've got to be tied more to the need. In other words, I led a big battle, a big fight against reducing getting rid of the city residency. In spite of what people said, well, nobody from the city's applying for these jobs. We need to waive them. If we don't waive them, it's going to be doom and gloom.
Well, and that was a lie.
I led that effort. And I got my colleagues. That night was one of the most tense and successful nights of my public life. I did that because, one, I'm not sure. Well, I am sure about one thing. The people of the city of Wilmington and the 1st District and their children and the children of their children should be given every opportunity to be employed and to be successful in their birth city, period. And I'm not one who's going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because what this need for employment is going around everybody, the county, the state. We all have challenges. But if I did not step up and fight that battle, what gains we did have and what gains we have now have been lost forever.
Yes.
So people,
and I was there, brother.
I know you were. And so what I say is, again, unity in the community comes from listening and having an honest agenda, moving forward, an honest agenda, not someone else's agenda. One thing you could say about Vincent White, he's an independent thinker. I'm a rational thinker. And I don't listen to anybody other than my constituents about what they need or not. And at the same time, if you're looking at the big picture of the city, you've heard my voice on other issues, whether it's water, whether it's trash, whether it's pensions, whether it's compensation for those city workers who are busting their butts. So I would say, again, don't look for the bauble, for the sparkling bauble, and think that that's going to be your gateway as a city to some economic salvation. Always consider the needs of the people, and what those needs are will transform the city with honest brokering and honest talk.
I will tell you, man, you are absolutely right. And you hit on a point there that I wanted to talk about too. This is going to be our last break. It looks like we do have a couple of people that had joined on. One of the things that I wanted to say is, before we do the break, in our quest to be transparent, and remember, and I'm telling the viewing audience, I ain't got to tell you, Vincent, but you already know this. A lot of times people who say they're transparent, especially elected officials, are probably the #1 people who aren't transparent. Give you a perfect example. Our water was terrible in July. It was terrible in June. And when we did our calls, a couple of us that called the water department, and we got the standard algae bloom response why our water tastes like summer camp from the Fresh Air Fund. We got that standard thing. One of my problems was we got that same standard stuff same standard statement in 2020, and I was told that we was going to get new filters or new whatever. My problem is there anybody who's watching our water system in Wilmington? And why hasn't mayor or somebody stepped up and just didn't do a blanket statement, stepped up and on camera and said, this is my fault, this is my bad?
Well, I can't say what people, why they didn't do something, but it's interesting you say that. Within a week after being appointed to city council, within 1 week, I made a trip to the water treatment plant. I spent a half a day there. And I looked at all of those contraptions and the smell, and I looked at the new technology. I spent a day. Why? Because I knew water increases mean something to people's pockets. I wanted to make certain that I understood where those dollars were going and how they were going to be applied. I looked at that whole system, and so yeah, there are times when there is going to be an algae bloom. There is going to be time when the water's not going to be tasted. But the question is then, what does the solution look like? Now they've got some new technology there to further get the water clear. But some of that technology goes back to 100 years where you just let the water drain and, you pick up the clean stuff off top. I'm not an engineer or water scientist, but I do know this. Me spending time out there makes me just a little bit more intelligent about what questions they ask, so I can ask people what's going on. And if you haven't spent time at the water treatment, you ain't got nothing else to do, which I'm sure I'm talking to, tongue in cheek, spend some time there.
Yeah,
call me. You want to go out and tour. You want to go out and take a look at this place. And so
not only have I been to the water treatment, but I've also went to the reservoir. And I'm going to tell you this because I grew up near a water treatment plant in Brooklyn, near East New York, the 75th water treatment plant. And we used to do those things as kids. We used to actually go to factories on school trips. I don't know if they still do that. Do you know if they still do that, Vincent?
I don't think they do that anymore. But
we actually used to go to factories. But I will say this: after 2020, especially after the water increase, after 2020, I did not expect in 2024 to have the response that our city officials did, where nobody got on camera and said, this is why XYZ happened, and it's because of this. What they did was put out the same exact statement they put out in 2020 when it happened. And that doesn't fly with me. That can't fly with me. Not when you're running a municipality or with what we got about 95,000 people in 75,000 in Wilmington. That doesn't fly. So I'm just saying, I don't want you to comment on it. I'm just talking about the executive branch of Wilmington. That was a bad move, especially since you were. And the second part of that question is they were telling people that no houses or no properties were taken because of water liens, and we find out from the news journal that that wasn't true. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't know anything about that. That was a question I know that came up during the water rate discussion, and I don't know enough to offer an informative comment. I think it's a subject matter that's constantly being under review. And once I know more, I'm going to be in a little bit better position to advocate for certain policies. But I think going down that pipe, there's just a lot of variables that I'm not privy to, and I don't think a lot of people are privy to on those one-on-one conversations with the user and the administration.
Yeah, fair enough. Before we go on our last break, again, we want to give the people an opportunity to volunteer to your campaign and to get involved. Can you give the people again, one more time, how they can get involved in your campaign?
Go to www.reelectvincenthwhite.com and you'll be able to sign off right there. I was just told from my assistant that's the best way to do it.
Excellent, excellent. All right, y'all. We'll be right back with the Hard Talk with Jakim show. This is our last break. We're here with Mr. Vincent White. We'll be right back. Peace. Listen to the lady Shirley Chisholm, the late great Shirley Chisholm, on what women should be doing.
You women better wake up if you want to help to change America around. You do the work. You better wake up. And don't be afraid. Have confidence in yourself. And the ability that you have is ability and talent given to you by God. And don't let anybody use you. Don't let people continue to use you and to manipulate you. The only thing that you have is your integrity and the principles and the convictions of what we are fighting for in America. In terms of opening up this system so that a lot of people can really feel that they can participate in it and not have that small, tight few that continues to manipulate every one of us.
If you can get poor working class white people to vote for you, even though your policies will help rich folk, then you've done half the job. If you can get those poor working class white people to believe that their enemies are not rich plutocrats and oligarchs, but the poor brown family that lives next door, then you're on to keeping power. It's a crappy system, but it's bad people in a bad system.
That's right, y'all. Bad people in a bad system. Peace and blessings, y'all. It's Jakim for the Hard Talk with Jakim show, back with Councilman Vincent M. White, and he's running for re-election here in District 1 in Wilmington, Delaware. Well, listen, we had a great
let's be clear. I'm running for election. I was appointed, so I was never re-elected.
Okay,
I'm running
for election. Got you.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that we got all the information out so that the ding-dongs and the dipsy-doos and the goobers out there don't get it twisted. Now, one of the other thing that I wanted to talk about that I got a bunch of emails. I love it. But one of the emails I get all the time is about Wilmington Police Department. And I had to tell somebody the other day when I was on the bus, I was on dark, and I had to tell somebody that there was a time when we could have had one of the best police commissioners, but y'all ran these people out because you didn't agree with one thing. But then when you get the people that come behind them, they are 10 times worse. So let me just say this, and this is a quick commentary. Newcastle County Police, Delaware State Police, Wilmington Police, there is a culture in our United States, for being from a former law enforcement, there's a culture in our United States that has to change. But we're not going to be able to change it from the bottom up. It has to be changed from the top down. And anybody who knows anything about any type of culture, I'm also a United States Army veteran, it has to come from the top down, not from the bottom. And I think people are doing a decent job, but do not confuse that with giving carte blanche to abuse and misuse. What do you say about that, sir?
Well, I'm gonna leave those comments basically in your ear. You're a former police officer. I'm just gonna say you're correct. Yeah. Everybody should be treated justly and respectfully. That's what I'm gonna say about that. And when people are not, they should use every right in their power to bring about the justice they think they deserve.
And accountability. Yes.
And accountability.
That's right. I want so many people to activate their discernment when it comes to looking about what's going on in your community. And the last thing that I want to get through is that Wilmington, Delaware is a fantastic city. And I think it's one of the better cities in not only in Delaware, but in the United States that doesn't get its due. And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why I think there's a concerted effort to label Wilmington a murder capital, a concerted effort to label Wilmington as something that's so poverty-ridden, yet that's not the truth. Yet that's not the lie. That's a lie. This Anne E. foundation that said that Delaware's education was at 32 out of 50 states in the union, that our education is just as bad as Mississippi and Louisiana. I think they may have some things right, and I think they got some things wrong. One thing I will say about our education, of course, council has nothing to do with that. That's a state issue. We understand that. But I will say this. There have been mishandling of our educational system here in Wilmington from past politicians that are echoing right now. What do you say about that?
Well, again, you're bringing up some conversations that I'm just not the expert at or have a big knowledge of. I would say that, let's go back to the police. And I want to make this clear. I mean, I work with the police in my community on a daily basis.
Yes.
Whether it's increased patrols or it's community engagement. I think the current chief Campos is doing an excellent job. So I'm not going to villainize all because of one. And I think that Wilmington is small enough that we can, what's I'm saying, subject our will in terms of what we want from our police officers. But and I don't know how many of the community knows this, but I sponsored legislation that was initiated by the chief. Whereas now, when the police are deployed to an incident and there's mental health issues, we have 3 mental health providers with the police, and the police will hand off these mental health issues. That is groundbreaking.
Yes, it is.
That's groundbreaking. And since that's been occurred, if you listen, and again, I'm a hands-on official, and I go to these meetings, and I seek these individuals out. They tell me on a daily basis how many lives they've helped move beyond this police encounter due to mental health issues. So I've got nothing but kudos for the efforts of the Wilmington Police in regards to this matter.
Right, and I will say this, you know, as an advocate, I will always say, and somebody who worked in the law enforcement thing, there's always room for improvement. And I'm going to leave it right there. And I'm getting ready to have a guest on from Newcastle next week, and Newcastle County Police in a lot of things. Let me just say this. To all my law enforcement people out there, one of the things that we have in Delaware is that sometimes I think, because I come from a big city, and I've been down here 20 years, I always think that the police stay at certain things way too long. I had an incident across the street from me, and it was a domestic violence incident. They made somebody move or whatever. But then I saw the police hanging out, and I'm saying in New York City, they would have told them to move on with that job. The sergeants would have said, please get back on patrol, get back in the squad, get back in the R&P, let's get it going. But that's just me. Listen, we've had a great conversation today with Vincent and White. And Councilman, before we leave out of here, is there anything that you want your viewers and your district to know about the things that you're doing and what you will continue to do if reelected?
Sure.
Again, if elected.
Well, first of all, you know, I'm a hands-on council person. I walk this district not just during election time, but all times. You know, I don't wait for someone to call me on an issue. Rather, it's someone who has a disagreement with their neighbor or a pothole. I'm the person that normally initiates the call. I've gone to all civic meetings and sat there and listened and taken back what they want, the actions that they want. But just during my short term, I made $3 million. I've advocated for $3 million investment in housing. Trees that were falling and disease have come down. Roads have been improved. Crime. Now, I'm not a police officer. I'm not going to take account for this, but crime is down 41%. Now, that's not necessarily because of policing. That's because residents have stepped up, right? You know, I say most crime is a lack of home training. I like to think the families and the kids in the first have unique home training because we don't have some of these issues that you see throughout at school. But I tell your viewers, I tell you, the best indication of what someone will do is what they've done.
That is correct.
So if you look at my record of service, not only on city council, because it's a small portion, but you look at my record of service when I was not a council person, it dwindles anybody's who's currently thinking about, the seat. Now, again, this is America. People are free to do what they want. Your KRS video, I'm going to have to go find that. One of the unique things, I always tell people, one of the unique things is you don't get old being stupid.
That's right.
Okay? You don't get old being stupid. So I'll rest on that to say that at the end of the day, let this not be a popularity contest. Let this be a contest of service, accountability, and achievement. And when you do that, Vincent White, First District City Council, is going to come to the top as cream rises to the top. So will my record of service.
There you go. And listen, I know this person is going to lead you. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't get to your parking violation question in that whole parking bureau because they wanted to get that. But we got it for another guest, man. Listen, that's a whole different issue. This has been the Hard Talk with Jakim show. We've had a great time with Vincent and White, somebody I knew before they became a council person. So, yes, another civic advocate out there. And it's important for you to get out and remember, September 10th is the primary here in Delaware. September 10th, get out there and vote. You may not want to vote for your national things. That's your prerogative. But I'm sure you should be voting for your local because that affects you. So again, thank you again, Vincent, for coming out. Thank you for being on the show. And I'm going to see you at City Council when we resume anyway. But
all right.
Peace and blessings to you. I'm going to leave you with a quote by Martin Luther King, and I'll see you on the next side. And remember, BTHOMP6164@gmail.com. Remember to watch the program on YouTube at Delaware Info Now or the Hard Talk with Jakim show on YouTube. Peace out. I'll see you on the line. Thank you, brother.
Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. When you stay silent, you allow wrongs to continue unchallenged. Your voice is a weapon. Use it. Think about what sets your soul on fire. Equality.